Hey everyone, so we've covered the ICD-11 diagnostic criteria for depressive and manic episodes, which primarily rely on clinical interviews. Today we're going to explore how psychologists complement this with quantitative data through psychometric tests. So what exactly is this Beck Depression Inventory that we keep talking about? Let me introduce you to this important assessment tool. By the end of this lesson, you'll have a grasp of certain concepts. You'll understand what the BDI is and how it actually functions. The mechanics behind this tool are surprisingly elegant once you see how it all fits in together. Think of it like understanding how a digital scale works. Simple concept, but sophisticated measurement happening underneath. Now you'll also master the scoring system and how we interpret these numbers in clinical practice. The logic behind the scores is quite straightforward once you grasp the basic principle. It's like learning a speedometer. Once you know what the numbers mean, you can interpret the information instantly. We'll also analyze both the advantages and limitations of psychometric testing. Because no tool is perfect, and this understanding the limitations is just as important as understanding the benefits. It's like knowing both what a ruler can measure accurately and what it cannot measure at all. And finally, you'll understand how the BDI represents the nomothetic approach in clinical psychology. Don't worry if that term sounds complex, we'll unpack it later. Think of it as understanding different ways of studying people, like the difference between studying one person in great detail versus studying patterns across thousands of people. So let's get started and see what this test really is. Now let's figure out what the Beck Depression Inventory and what psychologists take so seriously. Now the Beck Depression Inventory, or BDI, is named after its creator, Dr. Alan Beck. And you'll be hearing a lot more about him when we cover psychological explanations of depression later in this topic. The BDI is essentially a questionnaire designed to measure the severity of depression symptoms. Think of it like a medical questionnaire you might fill out at the doctor's office, but is specifically designed to measure mood. Now, this test can only be used with people over the age of 13. It's important to recognize that. Because when someone completes it, they should also think only about the last 2 weeks, including the day they're taking the test. Now, sound familiar? This is the exact same time frame directly aligns with the ICD-11 criteria we discussed about the 2-week minimum duration for a depressive episode. So we only need to think about the last 2 weeks. So it then can measure and check if the last 2 weeks were a depressive episode or not. And this connection to the ICD-11 is crucial because Beck was quite strategic about this, because it is designing a measuring cup that perfectly matches the recipe you're following. The BDI was designed to match the criteria for the ICD-11. It isn't just a random collection of questions. It is deliberately designed to align with how clinicians actually diagnose depression. Now let's examine the structure of this assessment tool and see how it's organized to capture different aspects of depression systematically. Now the BDI comprises of 21 items. Each item or a question focuses on a specific symptom commonly associated with depression. These include things like sadness, pessimism, self-dislike, and indecisiveness. It could also include guilt. The test takes around 5 to 10 minutes to complete. It's not very long, which makes it very practical for busy clinical settings. Now each item presents four statements, and the person selects the one that best describes how they've been feeling. For instance, for sadness, they could say, I do not feel sad. I feel sad much of the time. I am sad all the time. Or I am so sad and happy that I can't stand it. Now notice how each statement represents the increasing severity of sadness. Now this person isn't just saying yes I feel sad or no I don't feel sad. Instead, they're indicating the degree or intensity of that feeling. It's like having a volume control knob instead of an on-off switch. You get more precise information about how someone is feeling. Now let me show you what it looks like. Now this is a sample of the BDI. As you can see, the first item is about sadness. The person is given 4 statements to choose from. Each one reflects a different level of severity. We discussed that already. Now, this brings us to the scoring system. Now, this is where the mathematical precision of the BDI really becomes apparent and useful. Each of these statements has a mark or a number associated with it, 0, 1, 2, and 3. Now each response corresponds to 0 to 3, with high numbers indicating more severe symptoms. And since these are 21 items, the total possible score goes from 0 to 63 because it's 21 times 3. Think about it. The minimum is 0, right? Because there are no symptoms to report. And why is the maximum 63? Because the highest severity on all 21 items would score 3 on all 21, which is 63. Now, here's the usefulness. If the score is between 14 to 19, which is what is common in people with mild depression, 0 to 13 really is no depression. 20 to 28 is what we call moderate depression. Okay. Now, the scoring system allows clinicians not only to identify the presence of depression, but also gauge the severity. It's like the difference between saying it's cold outside versus saying it's minus 10 degrees and tomorrow it'll be minus 15 degrees. The number tells us how cold it's going to get. The number gives us precision and comparable data. Now, instead of just saying this patient is pretty depressed, we can say the patient has a BDI score of 24, and then you just see 24 and you say, hey, it's got moderate depression. Now, this systematic approach to measurement reflects a particular way of thinking in psychology, and this way of thinking is called the nomothetic approach. Let me explain you what that means and why it matters. The BDI is an excellent example of what we call the nomothetic approach in psychology. This approach seeks to establish general laws and principles that apply to large groups of people. Think of it like creating a universal measuring tape that works the same way whether you're in London, Tokyo, or New York. It uses standardized questions and scoring, allow clinicians to compare one person's result with established norms across thousands of people.
Quick pause. If you're finding value in this explanation, there's so much more to discover at Alt Academy, where we break down every A-level concept with the same clarity. Now back to the video lesson.
Now, it's designed to be administered the same way to all clients, be it in New York, Tokyo, Karachi, or Dubai, regardless of who they are. Now, this contrasts with the ideographic approach, now which focuses on the unique aspects of individual experiences, more like what happens in a clinical interview or a therapy session, where the conversation is tailored to that specific person's circumstance. And that's one approach, and this is the other approach, nomothetic versus ideographic. And this distinction is fundamental to understanding psychology. We're not saying one is better than the other, they both have their uses. Now, like any assessment tool, the BDI has particular strengths that make it valuable in clinical practice. Let me highlight the key advantages that make it so widely used. Now, one major strength of the BDI is that research evidence suggests it is reliable. Every time somebody takes it, they will get similar results. Basically, it doesn't have to always be valid, but it can definitely be reliable. The bullseye you see on the left is valid and reliable. The bullseye on the right might not be valid, but it's reliable. Three scores almost exactly the same. The consistency is crucial for any measuring instrument. Okay. Now, the BDI also shows good validity. Not just reliable, it's also valid. So which means if the scores are close together, they're also close to the exact score it's supposed to be. For example, the scores on the BDI are positively correlated with the scores on another well-respected depression test. So how do you know it's valid? Because the people who score a certain score on the BDI have a direct correlation to the score on the Hamilton psychiatric rating scale for depression. Now, the two tests measure the same thing and they give the same results, which means we have greater confidence that both tests are valid. Now, another significant strength of the BDI is that it's quick to administer. It is quick to administer, and it provides precise and accurate data. If you have a busy hospital psych unit and time is often limited, a tool that can provide meaningful, quantifiable information about anybody's mental state in 5 to 10 minutes is incredibly valuable because interviews take longer. Now, this practical value cannot be overstated. But obviously, like any assessment tool, it has its limitations, the BDI, that we need to understand. Let's outline the key weaknesses. A significant weakness is that it relies on self-reporting data. which means the person taking the test will report the data, which can be affected by social desirability bias. Now, what that means is people might withhold important information or exaggerate their symptoms depending on what they think will lead to better services or support. Now, someone might underreport suicidal thoughts because they're afraid of being hospitalized, but someone might overreport symptoms if they believe they will get them faster access to treatment. Now, while the ICD-11 acknowledges cultural differences in how depression is expressed, the BDI was developed for Western countries, in the Western context. In many cultures, people are more likely to report physical symptoms like aches and pains rather than emotional symptoms like sadness. While the BDI focuses on cognitive and emotional symptoms, the BDI's focus on cognitive and emotional symptoms might actually miss important cultural variations in how depression is experienced and therefore expressed. Now, the response set problems is another problem because people may follow patterns without careful consideration. That's the issue with the response set. Because when people are given the same type of answer to multiple questions without really considering each one carefully. Since all 21 items follow the similar format, which is increasing severity from 0, having no symptom, to 3 being very, very severe, someone might fall into a pattern of always choosing 2s or 1s or 3s rather than just thoroughly considering each option for themselves. Now that brings us to an important consideration about what the BDI can and cannot tell us about depression and its causes. Now, BDI collects purely quantitative data with the objective of deciding how much a person's symptoms match agreed definition of depression. Now, this approach assumes that depression resides within the person, an individual explanation, rather than considering the context or the situation in which the person is experiencing these symptoms. Now, modern approaches to diagnosis increasingly recognize the importance of understanding not what the symptoms someone has, but what they might be experiencing them, or why they might be experiencing them. Now, a person's depression might be directly related to unemployment, housing problems, or social isolation. Situational factors that our checklist of symptoms cannot capture. Context matters enormously in mental health. Think of it like this. If someone went to the doctor complaining of chest pain, the doctor wouldn't diagnose them based solely on chest pain scale rating. They will take a history, do a physical exam, maybe order an X-ray or other tests. Similarly, mental health assessment requires multiple sources of information. And BDI is just one important source. Now, it's crucial to understand that the BDI should never be used in isolation to make diagnosis. It's designed to be used by qualified health professionals as part of a comprehensive assessment. The quantitative data from the BDI needs to be interpreted alongside qualitative information from clinical interviews, observation, or consideration of the person's circumstances. Think of it like this. The BDI gives us the numbers, but we still need the human connection and clinical expertise to understand what those numbers really mean. It's like having a fitness tracker, but a conversation with a personal trainer. You need both to get the full picture. Now, the BDI is the most effective when used as part of a comprehensive assessment that includes both the nomothetic elements of standardized testing and the idiographic elements of individual clinical interviews. It's one piece of a larger puzzle. It's valuable, but it's not the complete picture. Now let me show you one particularly valuable application of the BDI in clinical practice. One particularly valuable application of the BDI is monitoring treatment progress. Now, because it provides numerical scores, clinicians can track whether interventions are working. For example, if someone starts with a BDI score of 35, which means severely depression, and after 6 weeks of treatment, their score drops to 18, which is in the mild depression range, now that provides clear evidence that the treatment is helping. This quantitative tracking is especially important in research studies comparing different treatments. Now, whether that's different types of therapy, different medications, or combinations of approaches, this tracking capability of the BDI is incredibly valuable for both clinical practice and research. It's like watching someone's weight drop on a scale during a fitness program. You have concrete proof that your approach is working and you can adjust your treatment accordingly. Now, this measurable improvement helps guide clinical decisions and provides hope for both clinicians and patients. Now, let's recap what we've done so far. So, the Beck Depression Inventory is a 21-item psychometric test that provides quantitative data on depression symptom severity. Its strengths include good reliability and validity, speed, and usefulness for tracking. However, its limitations include susceptibility to social desirability bias, potential cultural insensitivity, and its focus on individual rather than situational factors. Now, while the BDI is a valuable tool, it's most effective and used as part of a broader, more comprehensive assessment. This means combining both the nomothetic and the ideographic approaches. The nomothetic approach side helps us compare the individual scores to larger groups, but the ideographic approach is just like as important. It focuses on the unique experiences, history, and the personal context of the individual. Together, these approaches give us a much fuller understanding of someone's mental health and ensure that the support they need, they receive. And it's both evidence-based and deeply personalized. Now that wraps up our exploration of the Beck Depression Inventory. In next lesson, we will begin exploring the biological explanations of mood disorders, starting with the biochemical factors that may contribute to depression. See you in the next one.
Hey there! If you found this A-level psychology lesson helpful, why don't you head on over to altacademy.org, where you can sign up for the full A-level psychology course. In addition to psychology, we offered 7 other A-level subjects. Thousands of students have already taken the leap. What are you waiting for? I want to see you there.